Yes, your life is complicated and hard, but that is not a failure of God's plan. It is the plan. This is how God works to complete what He has started in you. It is so completely different from how we usually imagine the grace of our Lord. It goes very differently than we are inclined to think about God's love. It seems neither wise nor good to us. It leads us to doubt God's faithfulness and love. It is simply not what we thought we had committed to when we put our trust in Jesus Christ. It is not a typical definition of the good life, and it sometimes leads us to the view that God is not paying attention, and that the wicked will ultimately prevail. You are tempted to think that your life should be easier, more predictable, and more comfortable because you are a child of God. But that is not what the Bible teaches. Instead, it reveals that struggles are part of God's divine plan for you. This means for you as a child of God, you must never allow yourself to think that the difficulties you are now going through are a failure of God's essence, His promises, His power, or His plan. You must not allow yourself to think that God has turned His back on you. You must not consider the possibility that God is not as trustworthy as you had thought. You must not allow yourself any of this, because when you start to doubt God's goodness, you stop going to Him and asking Him for help. It is clear that when seeking help, you do not run to those whom you doubt. God has chosen to let you live in this fallen world because He intends to use the difficulties that arise to continue and complete His work in you. This means that those difficult moments are not an interruption of His plan or its failure, but rather important components of His plan. I believe there are times for many of us when we plead with God for grace and receive it, but not the grace we are looking for. We wish for a grace of relief or liberation, and we do get it, but only in small portions, while most of it is not yet present. What we all really need now is the grace of transformation. God's grace is not always pleasant. It often comes in a form that we would never have chosen to experience if we had been in control. We all need to instruct and encourage one another with the biblical teaching of transforming grace, because God's grace in this life often comes to us in unpleasant forms. This may not be what we wish for, but it is exactly what we need. God is faithful. He wants to use the brokenness of the world, and that includes our own, to complete His work of personal transformation in us. That is exactly what grace is. This Christian devotion is from the book Morning Mercies by Paul David Tripp.